yourself!
So one giant criticism of Pokemon Sword and Shield is that the games are too easy. The game had a lot of quality of life updates, like the lack of needing to grind due to the changes in the experience share, raids giving you strong items or TMs or Pokemon, and even the plethora of Pokemon to choose from in the wild area. In previous Pokemon games, you'd usually have the access to about 10 to 15 different types of Pokemon before the first gym. In Pokemon Shield, there's around 80 Pokemon to choose from before the first gym. There's 8 different Pokemon in Route 1 alone. This wide range allows you to customize your team in many different combinations, but also will naturally remove the difficulty of needing to find a particular type of Pokemon for a typing advantage later in the game. But with the way you see wild Pokemon in the overworld, it makes random encounters a thing of the past by removing some of the possibilities of being surprised. None of these mechanics are inherently bad things, but when put together, they left some players unsatisfied with the game, feeling too easy for the average player. Well, there's a saying that goes, good men don't need rules, and today is not the day to find out why I have so many. I'm gonna be completely honest. I think the too easy complaint is ridiculous for Pokemon games. You know, in a normal game, you can choose how difficult your game is from the beginning. You can choose easy, merciless, you can choose hard, you can choose whatever difficulty suits your need. In the Pokemon series, where the RPGs have some of the most flexible experiences in all of gaming history, we don't need to have to play the game like normal. We can change the rules and increase the difficulty ourselves with challenges such as Nuzlocks. So to give you guys a genuine taste of how a Nuzlocke can be more difficult than your average playthrough, I decided to give you guys a recorded playthrough of my own Nuzlocke with my own set of rules and quirks. If you're wondering what a Nuzlocke is, Nuzlocks are self-imposed rules by the player to increase the difficulty of playing the game. You have to follow these rules yourself, since the game doesn't actually have an option to play the game in that particular manner. These changes are made to try to give the player a unique experience, make them try out Pokemon that they wouldn't try out normally, and simultaneously build a strong bond with the Pokemon that they use. That being said, Nuzlocks usually have 2 main rules. The first rule being that any Pokemon you catch must have a nickname, and the second is that any Pokemon that faints is considered dead. That means no revives, no second chances for anyone that faints. These 2 rules together are to make it brutal when you lose a Pokemon, because it makes you build a strong affection for a Pokemon, and to lose it so suddenly can be devastating. If you think, oh, I can just get another one, well, then guess again, because that won't be happening so easy either. There are limits to what you can catch and limits as to how you can heal your Pokemon. Nuzlocke are meant to test you as a player in many ways, and without further ado, we're going to get into some of the rules of the official Nistro Nuzlocke. First off is that you must nickname every single Pokemon that you catch. This is like non-negotiable. Anything that you catch that can be used in the Nuzlocke has to be nicknamed. And second, if your Pokemon faints, you're no longer allowed to use it in battle. It must be taken out of your party as soon as possible. They have lost their life on the battlefield and must be put to rest in the PC for the rest of your Nuzlocke. My advice, or the usual standard, is to dedicate a single PC box to Pokemon that have fainted, but I would advise you not to release them, and you'll see why. That being said, a whiteout, meaning all the Pokemon on your team fainting at once or fainting in the same battle, is a game over. GG's. You essentially lose the entire Nuzlocke and have to start over from the very beginning if your entire team faints. So yeah, not exactly something you sort of want to avoid. Anyway, so moving on, there is no Pokemon Center Nurse Joy heals allowed. This is a capitalist society. You have to buy all your healing items, and as a matter of fact, not only do you have to buy everything, you're actually not allowed to sell items as well. So you actually have a limited resource of money. You have to defeat trainers to get the money to get more items, and facing those random trainers who you may not know what Pokemon they have or what moves those Pokemon have or what move they're going to use with those Pokemon, or because you're going to be in battle style set, you won't know what Pokemon they're sending out. It's gonna cause for a lot of unpredictable situations, and I think that's sort of the challenge that I'm trying to build. You know, some things sometimes being unpredictable, but you still having the ability to take control of the situation. The game actually heals your team a lot by itself, like after you beat a gym, or even after you battle Hop sometimes, or even Sonia helps you heal your team every once in a while. So there are a lot of times where you are going to get a chance to heal your team, even if, you know, there is no Nurse Joy heals allowed. Like, I'm pretty sure it's something a lot of players have noticed, not just me. But this game does give you sort of a lot of freebies when it comes to getting your team healed. So that's why I'm just saying no Pokemon Center Nurse Joy heals, because, you know, we don't want it to make it so that you can just grind endlessly. I want you to go for the next challenge immediately. I don't want you to worry too much about grinding, because if you grind too long, then you have to spend more money to get more healing items, and the more healing items that you get, the less money that you have for future endeavors until you beat more trainers. And, you know, it's sort of risky, because then, you know, sometimes a trainer might pull out a move that you may not be expecting, and then next thing you know, a Pokemon that you think was going to last you even longer just dies. As soon as you're given the ability to go into your Pokemon options, you switch it to Battle Style Set, which means that when your opponent is going to send out a new Pokemon after one of their old ones getting killed, it will not ask you if you want to switch. It will bring out the Pokemon immediately, and then you have to earn your switching. You have to earn your switching with Battle Style Set. So it's something that it's pretty common to have a rule like that in a Nuzlocke. So definitely not anything out of the ordinary. A common Nuzlocke rule is that you're only allowed to catch the first Pokemon in a singular route or area, but in Sword and Shield, a lot of wild Pokemon here are in the overworld, removing the chances of a random encounter, and in some areas, there aren't even options for a random encounter. So in this route, before you enter a new route or a new area, which you can catch a new Pokemon, you will have to decide whether you want a wild Pokemon in the overworld, or if you want a random encounter in the grass for that particular route. If you pick random encounter, then you continue in the route until you can find a Pokemon in the grass. If you pick overworld, if you pick the Pokemon that you can see while you're walking around, that means you have to pick the Pokemon that spawns closest to you when you first walk into the route. If Pokemon run away from you, then, you know, you pick the very next closest one. So the only time you break this rule in new routes or areas is for a repeat Pokemon or for a shiny encounter. In the repeat case, you finish the battle however you please, and you find a different Pokemon of the same encounter method. So that means if you're looking for a random Pokemon in the grass, and you ended up finding a Pokemon that you already had, you're not allowed to just switch to an overworld Pokemon, because that can make it so that if you actually already have a Pokemon, then you were to switch like halfway in a route. There are times where there are certain Pokemon that are only halfway into the route, and it would actually be unfair for you to like manipulate your chances like that when everyone else has to, you know, pick an overworld Pokemon from the very beginning of the route. There are some Pokemon that you might have to miss out on in certain routes because they are in the second part of a route and not at the very beginning of it. If you end up getting a shiny, I'm not going to be the one to say you're not allowed to catch it. Just fucking catch it, use the thing however you want, and then hopefully it's a fucking helpful Pokemon. There is a little catch to the wild area, right? Because the wild area is made up of 18 different unique areas, right? In a normal Nuzlocke, you can get one Pokemon from each area. But in the Nistro Nuzlocke, you're not allowed to get one from each area. You're only allowed to get one Pokemon from the very first area of the wild area aka the rolling fields. If you choose the overworld, then strong wild area Pokemon do not count as the overworld Pokemon for your Nuzlocke. So, you know how when you first walk into rolling fields, you see that giant Onix? That Onix doesn't count because that's a strong wild area Pokemon. In the rolling fields, you get to choose between overworld and random encounter before, you go in there, but it has to be a Pokemon from the rolling fields. Right? As I said earlier, there are 80 Pokemon. There are 80 different Pokemon that you can catch before you get to that first gym. And I think it would sort of be too easy if I just gave you every single Pokemon in every route in the wild area, or in every different area of the wild area before you got to Motostoke, because I feel like that would be a lot of Pokemon, and you'd have a start so good that the ending would be too easy. I want to make this hard. I want to make this difficult. So that's what we're gonna do. You actually go through the wild area a second time after beating the third gym, right? And that second time going through, I'm gonna throw you a bone. I'm gonna say you can catch any singular Pokemon that you want from the wild area that second time that you go through there. It doesn't matter what area. It doesn't matter how deep it is in the wild area. It can be any single Pokemon that you can find in the wild area that you are allowed to catch after the third gym. The only catch is that it has to be before you enter Hammerlock. So it has to be before you've even entered that fourth gym, so that your highest level cap is like 35. There are still limits as to what you can catch, but there is still a lot of possibility. There is still a lot of Pokemon that can have really good typings, or that can have really good advantage against maybe gyms or like strong trainers that you're going to be facing later on. Or even you can even like get a Pokemon that fixes an inherent flaw in your team. That second time going through the wild area, I want you to really think about, what Pokemon do I really need to beat the rest of these 4 gyms, or what Pokemon, or what typing, or what type of thing am I lacking? I want this to be a mode where you have to think a lot about preparing for the future. I want preparation to be really, really significant in this game mode. So that's why that second time, pick any Pokemon you want from the wild area. It is my gift to you. But again, the only rule is it has to be before you enter Hammerlock. Raid Pokemon are not allowed in this Nuzlocke at all. And the reason why is because not only does it give you a strong Pokemon with possibly higher base stats, but also they give you a whole bunch of TMs, a whole bunch of experience candies, and they give you a whole bunch of berries and stuff that can be very, very, very extremely helpful. And I think it's essentially just giving all those somewhat strong items away. So to mitigate the challenge, I'm just going to say no raids in general, because sometimes they also do give you broken Pokemon. Like the second time I played through Sword and Shield, I got an Axew. I got a level 18 Axew from a raid in that first opening area in the wild area, and because of my own personal decision, I chose not to use it as much, but it was still extremely helpful. It was still an extremely strong Pokemon. I will reiterate it as its own rule. There are no raids allowed. None of those Dynamax raids allowed. They do give you a lot of freebies. It would just make the game too easy. So we're going to say no to raid battles. And not only is it no to raid battles, but also no to Dynamaxing as well. So when you're in those gym battles and you see your opponent Dynamax, you're not gonna have a chance to Dynamax. Again, as I said earlier, I want you guys to think ahead as to what is actually going to happen. So no Dynamaxing will be allowed for this Nuzlocke challenge, because I want those Dynamax battles to be a lot more tense and feel a lot crazier than even the game lets them out to be. And I feel like that's a good design choice on my part, because you can make it so that the Dynamax battles feel like the big deal that they are supposed to be, instead of like wimpy, gigantic versions of wimpy Pokemon, you know. Um, while we're on the topic of strong wild Pokemon, there actually is quite a little gimmick in the Nistro Nuzlocke. So if you kill one Pokemon that's 10 or more levels higher than the highest level of your party, you get to use one revive in the Nuzlocke. But this might take more risk and strategy than you realize, right? So you kill a Pokemon that's 10 levels higher than your strongest Pokemon, then you get one revive. If you do that 5 times, if you kill that Pokemon 5 times, then you actually get to use a game over pass. I'm sure you know great minds think alike, so somebody has come up with a rule like this at some point in history, but if not, then yeah, my Nuzlocke will allow you the opportunity to get revives at very costly circumstances. If you feel like you lost a very significant Pokemon too early, this might be just a gimmick for you. But just be wary, you might lose more than one Pokemon trying to actually get that revive from that level 10 or higher, or from that Pokemon that's 10 levels higher than the highest level Pokemon in your party. Right? So if you're not careful, like, it's nowhere near an easy thing to do, and if you're not careful, you'll lose more than what you'll gain by winning. But if Sword and Shield is so easy, I'm sure you guys will be fine. So there are 3 towns in Galar with wild Pokemon, right? So towns being like Modestoke, Hammerlock, Holbury, you know, these are the places where there may not be wild grass, and you know, there's the Pokemon centers and all the buildings, right? These also count as their own areas, and so there are 3 different towns where there are wild Pokemon. In Modestoke and Holbury, there are actually fishing spots where you can encounter a wild Pokemon. These fishing spots are a good option if you don't have a water type already, or if you want to catch an extra Pokemon just in case. Now in Modestoke, there's also a gym challenge to catch or kill 3 different wild Pokemon, right? Now in this Nuzlocke, I will allow you to catch all 3 of those Pokemon, but you will only be allowed to use the first one that you catch, right? So just be careful about that. Also, if you choose to get that Pokemon from the gym, then you can't go to the fishing spot in Modestoke. So you have to choose between the fire type in the gym or the water type in the fishing spot. I think that's a pretty fair choice that I'm giving you. Just be wary. You do have another fishing spot in Holbury. Again, as Nuzlocke rules, it just has to be the first Pokemon that you encounter in that fishing spot. But when it comes to that gym, that third gym, pick any of the 3 Pokemon, but it just has to be one of them. I'm just gonna say pick any one of those 3 Pokemon. Right? The first one you catch is the one that you can nickname and use. The other 2 are counted as illegal Pokemon, which means that they cannot be used for the entirety of the Nuzlocke, and they have to be left in a separate box from your cemetery box where all of your fainted Pokemon go to sleep, and your main box where you leave all your extra, still functioning Pokemon. After Holbury and Modestoke, there's actually Turffield, and this is where it sort of gets interesting, because there's this big rule in Nuzlocke where you're not allowed to use legendaries. But after you get the water bike, so after you beat the 6th gym and you get the water bike, you can actually go back to Turffield, use your water bike, and actually try to find this extra item. But as you're going down the water, there's a wild level 50 Crawdaunt just sitting there. It's just sitting there. It sits there indefinitely until you catch it. So that wild Crawdaunt is all yours. It is free range. You can consider it the actual legendary of your game. And the reason why it is because Eternatus, the legendary that you catch before you beat the game, would not be allowed for use because it is a legendary, right? Crawdaunt it is the first Pokemon, the first wild Pokemon that you would see in Turffield. So, by my logic and by, I think, Nuzlocke logic, it counts. And I think you should be allowed to catch it and use it however you please. Just be wary, it's level 50, it knows Sword Stance, so if you don't catch it nearly immediately, it is going to do some damage to you. So no setting up camps in the game. Camps are sort of new mechanic, but they can give you finding food is too easy, and it can give you free experience. The whole point is that I don't want you to sort of, you know, like grind, you know, the fucking curry decks and, you know, get all these curries that can increase your experience or increase your stats or your friendship a lot easier than you're supposed to do it. So the only camps that are allowed are the ones in the middle of certain routes. I will allow you to use those camps, but you can't just set up camp wherever you go. You know, I want you to use camps only at certain times in the game, not, you know, like whenever you just feel like it, you know. And rule number 10, no Pokemon from other trainers, right? You gotta finish this Nuzlocke just like you started, so that means no trading with someone just to get, you know, like an evolution or something. So like if you get like a Boldore like I did, you're sort of just stuck with it. No trade evolutions allowed either, right? Also, no hard resets when you take an L. You gotta carry it. You gotta carry that L when you take it, or else, you know, this whole challenge is just redundant if you can just reset every time something goes wrong. So if these rules seem over the top, they are, right? Like, if Pokemon Sword and Shield is so easy, then you'll manage, right? Like, your challenge is to make the most out of your Pokemon, work together to get through the bad situations, and minimize casualties, right? It's a doable challenge. Pokemon has always been a battle of information, and the more information that you have, the better off you'll be. How well did I do? Well, to be honest, it was a bit of a struggle, but I did make it to the champion. How did that go? Well, let's find out. This is the official Nistro Nuzlocke. I am your host, Sir Nistro, and I hope you guys enjoy.